The CEO of the Memphis Area Transit Authority was among those taken into custody. Others included
a medical professional, an engineer, a law student, and a tow truck driver.
38 men and 4 women were arrested, many from the Memphis area. Mona Rivera, ABC News.
The city of Santa Monica, California, says it's reached an agreement with the federal government to close its airport. The city says it'll be closed in December of 2028. The city wants to turn the 227-acre site into a park. This is ABC News.
Looks like some cable and phone companies are trying to sell home security. But when a burglar sees one of their signs in the front yard, what does it say? Oh, wow, this home has 599 channels. Or, oh, these guys have high-speed internet. But the ADT sign, it says, this family trusts the company whose name means security. So beat it. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes.
Learn more at ADT.com and to see licensing and terms and conditions.
Daria Albinger, ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont and the Pass area, as we kick off the weekend, there's a wind advisory continuing through Sunday afternoon. It'll be sunny with a high of 61 with winds to 50 miles an hour. Tonight, it'll be clear and windy, a low of 45 with gusts to 30 miles an hour. Of a sunny, windy Sunday, or high 61 with gusts to 45 miles an hour. For Redlands, a wind advisory is in effect through Sunday afternoon. We'll have sunny skies on a high of 68 today. For Palm Springs, it'll be sunny with a high of 69. I'm Rod Tanner for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, host of The Main Event, president of Wholesale Capital and the founder of WCC Charities. I'd like to invite you to the first WCC Charities Gala and Auction this February 25th at the beautiful Victoria Club in Riverside, where we'll be raising money for wounded veterans causes that so many of us are passionate about. It's going to be a magical night out for a great cause. This is a red tie event because red stands for Remembering Everyone Deployed. Visit the events page at wcccharities.org for more information or call my assistant Shelly at 855-640-2020 to order tickets. That's 855-640-2020. Hope to see you there.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Welcome. It's time for Constitution Radio. Douglas V. Gibbs, author, speaker, instructor, radio host, right here on KMET 1490 AM. DouglasVGibbs.com to find out a little bit more about me. We titled today's show Life, America, and Snowflakes. And we were going to have Kurt Nordahl, the author of What Pisses Me Off About the Good Old USA, in studio with us. He's been with us a handful of times, but he had an unforeseen circumstance come up, a funeral. I guess most of the time funerals are unforeseen circumstances, right, Alex?
The ones I attend are.
Now, here at Constitution Radio, we've been following what's been going on nationally, locally, state, and locally. And I wanted to bring something up real quick before we get rolling. I don't know about your locality there, Alex, but with all this rain, does it seem to me that Californians were ill prepared to have a dent made into the drought?
Well, I'm surprised that they're saying that we still don't have sufficient water to cancel the drought.
Well, they don't collect the water. What they do is they wait until there's a snowpack. That's part of the problem. And only 7% of the total rainfall in California actually goes to human consumption or use. And a lot of it is drained right back into the ocean to protect the delta smelt. We also have our storm drains, which go straight to the ocean. There's very little effort to collect that. They really depend on the Colorado River and the snow melt, or snowpack, should I say? And it would take a very long time to get the snowpack back where we want it, for our consumption. And so now that said, it shows an error in the ways of the leftist establishment that runs this state when it comes to having enough forethought to put into place mechanisms to collect that rainwater. Part of the reason they don't is because of money. They don't have the money because, they're spending on much more important things, like welfare and trains.
Yeah, Bullet Train North.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of the movie Chinatown with Jack Nicholson.
Mm-hmm.
The water is pouring out and nobody's doing anything to collect it. Now, in that case, they were doing it in order to pull a fast one financially. Whether that's the case now or not, I don't know, but it's obvious that the authorities in charge are not taking care of business.
It could be a little bit about control. I know in the state of Oregon a few years ago, there was a gentleman actually arrested for collecting rainwater on his own property because the container he was using wasn't state approved.
Must have been liberals.
You can't write this stuff, man. I mean, truth is truly stranger than fiction. All right, on the phone with us, calling in, is Scott Scharpen. Scott Scharpen is from the, he's a pastor, pro-life advocate, Scharpen Foundation, and Go Mobile for Life pro-life services. So I'm going to bring him on board because I wanted to talk with him, especially about one particular story for the week, the AllStar Collision Big Stories of the Week, AllStar Collision, allstarci.com. If you got a dent, a smash, or a crash, take it to AllStar Collision, a CarStar shop there in Corona, the Kings of Wreck and Roll. Welcome to the show, Scott. Pleasure to have you on the air.
Doug, thanks for having me today.
I'm looking forward to this because your timing couldn't be more perfect. Mike Pence and the National Walk for Life. This is historic. We haven't had officials this high up participate and speak at the National Walk for Life before. And, of course, he's under attack by the anti-pro-life forces and anti-constitutional forces. But did you have a chance to hear his speech?
I did. It was very inspiring. And as you said, Doug, this is the first time that a sitting vice president has ever spoken at a Walk for Life. And this, after the dreadful day that lives in infamy of January 22nd, 1973, where the famous Roe v. Wade case was handed down by the Supreme Court. There's been pro-life folks who fight that decision, who pray that it be overturned, who for the last 44 years, every January, go out to Washington, D.C. and march for life. And so Vice President Pence got up there, and my favorite quote of his speech, the whole thing was very inspiring, but he said, "Life is winning again in America."
Mm-hmm. Well, I gave a speech at an event a couple years ago for Birth Choice Temecula, and I explained that back in 1990, in the early 1990s, there were over 100,000 abortion clinics in this country. We're down to less than 50,000 at this point. 33% of the American people, according to polls back then, considered themselves to be pro-life. A Gallup poll just a few years ago had it at 51% of Americans consider themselves pro-life. And we've seen the number of abortions drop from 1.6 million a year to 1.2. So we are winning this fight to fight against the wholesale slaughter of innocent blood, but we're far from. It's far from over. We're far from our goal, and I think that this is just like any other political fight. It's going to be. It's going to require eternal vigilance. I think it's going to be a never-ending fight.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and certainly that quote isn't meant to, from Vice President Pence, that the fight is over, but indeed. The tide appears to be turning, though. In fact, it's interesting that about 60% to upwards of 2/3 of people of the American public, which obviously includes Democrats, believe that there ought to be real abortion restrictions after the first 3 months of pregnancy, which is about 13 weeks. And so, we still have a debate where some. Including myself, believe that life begins at conception. It's an independent life. The only thing that life needs in the womb is more time to become a human being that we can look at and see. But it does appear that there is a shifting of the tide here, and hopefully the pro-life voices now will at least get equal footing with those who are pro-choice.
From the language that Justice Blackmun used in his opinion of the Roe v. Wade decision in 1973, he used the term personhood, and that's really the legal fight there. Is does personhood begin at conception. In the 14th Amendment, it does indicate that persons are to be treated equally under the law. So personhood, that's what we're looking for here. Now that we have a change in the White House, and we've seen a number of states trying to pass laws basically stating, matter of fact, Mississippi did this a couple years ago, stating that personhood begins at conception. Do you think that with the new president in the White House and apparently some more judicial picks coming up, that we'll be returning more of this control back to the states and allow these bans on abortion through the language of personhood begins at conception? Do you think we're going to see more of that now that we have a new sheriff in town, so to speak?
Well, I do, Doug. In fact, of course, replacing Antonin Scalia's vacancy will put the court back to the 4-4 with Justice Kennedy as often the swing vote. So we probably need another one of the, if I may, liberal judges get replaced by a conservative judge. But certainly the trade win and trend line looks a lot better than it would have if there would have been a President Clinton. But this point you raised about personhood is very interesting because what the Supreme Court had to do in that 73 decision, Roe v. Wade, is they had to decouple something that never should have been decoupled, which is a human being from a person. I mean, when you think even about a conceived egg in the womb of a woman, at conception, that life is part of the human race. Why? Because it will become human, just like any other mammal that you would see in the womb of its mother would be considered a member of that race. But once they decoupled human being from personhood, it allowed them to constitutionally, in my judgment, kill an innocent life.
The DNA is there from conception.
Right. The DNA is there from conception, and it's, from my point of view, we go through a number of development stages in our life, and it's just an early development stage of people, and we go through these different development stages as we get older. Alex is in the studio with me. Alex Ferguson. He comes into the studio from L.A. County every week to participate in this program. Mm-hmm. Alex, did you have any questions or comments in addition to your DNA comment?
Well, my comment is that there was a Politico on the tube the other day. I don't remember his name, who said that the Roe versus Wade decision is the worst constitutional interpretation that's possible. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg has said that, and several other major scholars. The point is that the Supreme Court's judicial review is supposed to review what's already in the Constitution. These people made it up from whole cloth. There is no reference to abortion in the Constitution. The Constitution is silent. Yeah. There is no reference to privacy in the Constitution. So the whole thing really, in a logical world, would be nullified as nonsense.
Well, it's a great point you bring up, Alex. Not only is abortion, medical services, or anything of that type mentioned in the Constitution as an authority for the federal government, therefore there is no authority, but it's also but it's also something that the founders did address. James Wilson, I don't have the quote with me, but James Wilson, which was from Pennsylvania, he was in the Constitutional Convention representing Pennsylvania, as well as one of the leading voices in support of the Constitution during the Pennsylvania Ratifying Convention, did discuss life, personhood, that a child in the womb is a child, no different than a child outside the womb. And from a constitutional point of view, you go back to the 10th Amendment. 10th Amendment indicates that if something's not a federal authority, it's not prohibited to the states, and it's up to the states. Okay, so Roe v. Wade then overturned a state law, but it was a state issue.
It's a usurpation of the legislative authority by the judiciary.
Well, that goes to my second point. Absolutely. Article 1, Section 1 says that all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in the Congress. Therefore, the judges cannot legislate. They're supposed to, their job is to rule on the law, what the law says on the case regarding the case, not what their opinion of the law is. Their opinion of the law does not matter. The law is a law. And if the federal government has no authority over the issue, they can't even take the case in the first place. So in a purely constitutional world, what would have happened in 73 is the federal court system would have said, hey, this is not a federal authority. We can't take the case. It goes back to the last decision in Texas. The last decision in Texas, the Texas Supreme Court, supported the Texas law on the books. So we've got a difficulty here that goes, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not setting aside the moral implications. As a Christian, I do believe that life and personhood begins at conception. But from a legal standpoint, we have a complete, not just usurpation, but complete disregard for the law of the land, the United States Constitution, by the folks that are supposed to uphold it.
Well, when you take excuse me, guest, I'm sorry for stepping on your time, but I'm very passionate about this. When you take a situation where we have 9-month term babies ready to be born, and they are ripped apart. They go in and they suck their brains out. At 9 months, a 9-month fetus is not a fetus; it's a baby. And anybody who says it's not is a liar and a killer.
When we come back after the break, I've got a story about that, a conversation I had with a woman. Plus, also, we're going to learn more about what Scharpen does, the mobile services, pro-life services that he has, and it's pretty incredible work. All of that when we return. Don't go anywhere.
You got a dent in your door, a scratch in your fender, or a scratch in your door and a dent in your fender. If you need auto detailing, if you need fire shooting decals on the side of your car, if you need a rally stripe right down the middle of your hardtop, I don't care what it is. The Patriots at AllStar Collision are the place you want to go. They're the only place to go. 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Web address allstarci.com to see all that they do and what they're all about. Phone number 951-279-9161. AllStar Collision, the kings of wreck and roll.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President Wholesale Capital Corporation, your direct mortgage lender. Real estate prices are still low, which means now's the time to buy your next home before they go up. Whether it's a home to live in, a vacation house, or an investment property, we can meet your mortgage financing needs to help you realize the next phase of your American dream. At Wholesale Capital Corporation, we make sure you get a loan that you can afford with terms that work for you. Wholesale Capital welcomes FHA buyers, conventional buyers, jumbo loan buyers, and we proudly help the U.S. military veterans take advantage of the zero down payment VA loan program. Nobody treats veterans better than Wholesale Capital Corporation. Seniors, if you're interested in creating an additional stream of income or just making your mortgage payment go away with a reverse mortgage, Wholesale Capital would love to help you. To speak with a loan officer who has your best interests in mind, call Wholesale Capital at 855-640-2020. That's area code 855-640-2020. Wholesale Capital Corporation, where we can close.
Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the business's advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more advertising, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs grows, and we will be on the way to win the battle to restore the Republic. To learn more, email us at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com or visit douglasvgibbs.com. What's your constitutional IQ? Your quest to learn the Constitution can be fun for the whole family. Learn about the Constitution as you play the Constitution Quest board game. Learn more at constitutionquest.com.
And now, back to our program.
Welcome back, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, right here on KMET 1490 AM. It's a pleasure, listeners, to have you with us here on a Saturday afternoon. If you missed the program or you caught us late, you want to catch the whole thing later, you can listen to the podcast. Go to KMET 1490 AM. Find the Constitution Radio page. You can go to shows down to Saturday and then scroll down. And then there on our page on the website, there is a podcast link. That'll take you to soundcloud.com/KMET-1490-AM/sets/Constitution-radio. You can also check out some of our shows on youtube.com/Douglas V. Gibbs. And, of course, listen live if you can't get us on the radio or on the computer on your smartphone. Get the KMET app. Make your smartphone smarter. Get the KMET app. Listen to us live every Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific. I have to add the Pacific because we do have listeners around the world. All right. On the air with us, we have Scott Scharpen of the Scharpen Foundation and Go Mobile for Life Pro-Life Services, which is under the Scharpen Foundation umbrella. And as a pastor and a pro-life advocate, he's been involved in this for a while. Real quick, though, before we start talking about that, I wanted to bring up a story, and I'm not sure if I've talked about this on the air or not, but, it's a stunner, Alex, when you come across people who actually believe what you talked about a moment ago. When you actually are face-to-face with someone who truly believes that not only is abortion a good thing, and late-term abortion is a good thing, but hold on to your socks here, folks, post-birth abortion is a good thing. There are those out there who believe that a child is actually not a child until they reach the age of 2 years old. And that's the thing about evil, sin. It always progresses. The envelope is always being pushed. Always. It always gets worse to the next level. And what's next, if we continue to allow the wholesale slaughter of our babies in America, it will be murder during the first 2 years of life for these children. So I was getting my car smogged last September, and I had finally gotten to the point where I was willing to wear my Trump for President pin. For those of you who've been listeners for a long time, you know that I was a little bit leery about Trump at the beginning. Took me some time to warm up to him. I had to do a lot of research, but I finally was willing to put my Trump for President pin on my shirt, and those two folks already in the room, a male and a female, unrelated. And the gentleman sees my button and says, "Oh, they're both jerks. I'm not voting for either one." I said, "Well, you know what? If you want to learn more about it, I've got a radio program. I'd love to." He's like, "No, I'm not interested." The woman says, well, she was kind of flustered by what he had said. She says, "Oh, you have to choose a candidate. And, of course, Hillary's got some great, things on her platform." And I turned to her, like what? She says, "Well, like abortion." And I turned to her, I said, "You understand that woman refused to vote for a bill that would ban late-term abortions all the way up to the due date." And she says, "That's good. If they start banning late-term abortions, they'll start trying to ban all abortions." And I said, "And you understand that Hillary Clinton hangs out with people like Cass Sunstein who supports the concept of post-birth abortion, child being killed up to the age of 2. And she says, and I quote, are you ready for this? Are you sitting down? "That's why they call them infants and toddlers. They're not human yet." These people exist. And it's absolutely incredible that anybody, especially a woman, could turn against their own children like that.
Barack Obama is one of them.
Well, yeah,
he supported.
Yeah, when he was in the Senate.
Yeah.
Yeah, supported basically infanticide is what they call it.
The only issue he actually fought on.
Yeah, infanticide, where aborted child survives, but rather than give it the child medical attention, you toss it aside, you let it die. That's basically infanticide, and that's what he supported. Okay, now with us, Scott Scharpen is in this issue and fights it regularly. Scharpen Foundation and the Go Mobile for Life pro-life services. Tell us about what you do.
Go Mobile for Life is It is a pregnancy clinic, and what makes it a little more unique than most is that it's mobile. It's contained within a 31-foot Class A RV equipped with an ultrasound machine. And what we do is we go out into the community and park in different locations in Riverside County, and we make ourselves available for women who desire a free pregnancy test and ultrasound. So, Doug, you mentioned your work with Birth Choice of Temecula. There's other centers like Corona Life Services, Elsinore Valley Pregnancy Center, Riverside Life Services doing some great work. And so what we do is we complement that work because we're going in places where women may not be able to get to some of these other pregnancy centers and clinics. And so the hope is that with this work that we're doing with this licensed medical pregnancy clinic with the California Department of Public Health, is women can come on, they can get a pregnancy test, and as you've pointed out, seeing a picture of their baby on an ultrasound is a very powerful influencing force for them to go from wanting to abort their baby potentially to wanting to keep their baby because they see that it's not a clump of cells, but indeed it is a life with a heartbeat, brain waves, and all the things you and I have.
Well, now, there's a film, matter of fact, that was put out by, I'm trying to remember the name of the organization now, Andrea, out there in Temecula. I can't remember what she calls the organization now, but it's a short film. Oh, God, now I got to look it up. It's a short film.
Project
I'm sorry?
Life. Project Life.
Well, it's a short film about a woman in a center, and she's considering abortion, and she sees the image on the screen of the baby, and then the film goes through, in her mind, the whole life of that child.
Yeah, very powerful. I've seen that. I think her organization's called Project Life.
Project Life, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and very powerful. But really, when the fact of the matter is that what an ultrasound does is it brings to life that which is hidden. It's right. It's kind of like the phrase you can't unring a bell. Well, you can't unsee a picture of an ultrasound of a baby, and so when that gets lodged in a woman's mind, and believe me, we understand that if there's an unplanned pregnancy, there's issues of finances and relationships and job and where I'm going to live and how I'm going to care for this baby. So we understand and can sympathize with that difficulty. But what's so amazing is that there are a lot of resources in the community, most of which are free, that can help a woman through this difficult process.
Well, here's the thing, though. The left, the liberal left, the progressives, the socialists, communists, whatever you want to call them, Democrats, they're all different words for the same thing. They are adamant about stopping any pro-life push. They are trying to advocate for abortion any way they can, including in ways that go against our Constitution and against common sense. And I'll give you an example, and I definitely want to talk about this. And with myself being involved with Birth Choice Temecula, this has become an issue. AB 775, which essentially, in a nutshell for the audience's purpose, tells a pro-life organization that they have to advertise locations for a woman to be able to get an abortion on their paperwork, in the office, on the wall. It requires a certain font size, the whole bit. This is it's incredible because you don't see a law telling abortion clinics to advertise pro-life clinics. How is it that equality under the law doesn't exist when it comes to this?
There was a recent case where a state had passed a law that said that a woman before having an abortion had to look at an ultrasound. And the courts stepped in and said that was unconstitutional.
That was North Carolina.
Providing her, the pregnant mother with more information is unconstitutional.
Well, they're willing to defy common sense to push the wholesale slaughter of the unborn. And my statement whenever I talk about abortion has always been this: to whom are they sacrificing that innocent blood? Scott, what's your thoughts about AB 775? Fill us in a little bit more.
Yeah, indeed. So as you had said, Doug, it requires a posting of a notice that essentially free and low-cost access to comprehensive family planning services are available to this, woman, including abortion. And that, it goes on to say to determine, whether you qualify, contact this office and providing the phone number. So essentially, what they're doing is compelling clinics and pregnancy centers to basically do the government's work for it, to say, you have to let this woman know that she has comprehensive family planning services available. And incidentally, California, as a state law, does provide abortion services on demand for any woman who wants it. But you have to honestly be living on another planet to not know that abortion and these healthcare services for pregnant women are available. But they want the pregnancy clinics and the pregnancy centers to be pushing this information in front of the woman. Now, the fact is, we want to arm this woman with information. Knowledge is power. But we actually do talk about abortion procedures and what it actually means. It is legal in this country to get an abortion. As much as I think that that's murder, the fact is it's legal. So we're not about coercing a woman, but we are about arming a woman with the best information. I can't tell you how many women I've talked to who had an abortion 2 years ago, 10 years ago. I met a woman who had one 40 years ago, and she hasn't told anybody about it. So that's the kind of long-term effects that it's not just getting rid of a problem in a quick fix, but in fact, it's something that carries on with women for decades. So this AB 775, it's compelled speech with a religious faith-based organization who chooses not to be told what they want to say to a woman. So that's the ultimate fight. Now, legally, let me just take a moment and tell you that this lawsuit against the implementation of AB 775, which, by the way, went into effect January 1st of 2016, and there was some lawsuits in the federal court system. It went up to the Ninth Circuit, and last October, that lawsuit trying to stop the implementation was denied. So the federal case is now, it's basically dead. What our clinic did at Go Mobile for Life, we filed in the state, California state court system, and we have a hearing coming up, a court trial coming up in March. And this is an opportunity to continue to argue that this is an unconstitutional compelling of speech against an organization's will.
There's also been a number of cities who have decided that they will not enforce the law in support of the pro-life services establishments in their city or in their area.
This isn't just propaganda for women. It's also propaganda for female children. Almost any age, a child goes into a school's health office, they can ask for and get an abortion without the parents' knowledge. They can't even get an aspirin without the parents' knowledge, but they can do that. So as a consequence, we actually have cases where a guy who has statutory raped a girl can drive her to an abortion clinic and get her an abortion, and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Well, this is a Marxist ploy about silencing the opposition. Remember, Karl Marx once said, the meaning of peace is the absence of opposition to socialism. The idea is you have to silence the opposition. You have to make the opposition irrelevant. And if you can't do it by overtaxing them or push them out of the way by breaking them financially, then you start using laws that silence them. And also what you do is you use language against them as well, and you literally ridicule them into silence. And that's what Marxism, leftism, the Democrats do. Now, that said, with all these attacks, as a mobile life services organization, are the attacks constant for you in the sense of hate mail and lawsuits or accusations? I mean, is that a constant thing, or that you have to deal with, or is it every once in a while? How's that?
Yeah, well, honestly, Doug, we have felt protected by the Lord doing this work. We haven't had, in that sense, a lot of opposition to the kind of work that we're doing. But that could change.
Right.
As you said, there are some powerful forces out there, and they are making a lot of money in the business of abortion. And so what we're doing, as you said earlier, is indeed cutting against or cutting into that business, and they don't like that. But really, if what we're about is giving women the information they need to make the best decision for them, how can anybody be against that? But again, as you said, they want to silence the opposition. They don't want alternative voices telling these women that think through what you're doing here.
This is just like the Vietnam War. They make the followers into criminals.
Right.
In the Vietnam War, they were traitors. They were working to defeat American troops in the field. In the case of abortion, they've got women who are killing their own babies, and in order to keep from seeing that as a guilty, horrible, abominable act, they have to support the idea that it's just a collection of cells.
Well, now, on the program, Alex has been reviewing a book called The Communist by, was it Paul Kinker, right?
Right.
We're going to run short on time, so I'm going to have you hold off your book till next week. But
that's okay.
I had a feeling you wouldn't mind. But I was looking at something you have highlighted here. I have a feeling that's a part of today, right?
This is something I covered last week.
Okay. In less than a minute, something to whet people's appetite for next week when you talk about this.
Well, we're going to be talking about a guy by the name of Harry Bridges. Harry Bridges was the unopposed president of the International Longshoremen and Warehousemen Union from 1936 to 1977. He was a hardcore Marxist. He was a member of the Communist Party USA. He was a member of the Politburo of the ruling council of that party, and yet he testified in court that he was not a member, and because he had jumped ship, he came here as an illegal alien. The decent legislators were trying to get him deported, and the Supreme Court naturally said there's nothing wrong with belonging to an organization. Well, the organization that he belonged to was funding his operation. It was giving his people orders. It's a horrible story. It's the greatest story never told.
When we return after the break, the beginning of Trump, snowflakes and community organizers and racists of the Democrat Party. We've got a few things to say about all of it. Scott, you're welcome to remain with us for the third segment, or you can take off. So far, appreciate the time you've spent with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Anybody wants to learn more, you can go to gomobileforlife.org. And thanks for your having me on the program today.
Oh, no, it's all my pleasure. And with that, we'll be right back.
The true patriots of AllStar Collision have been proudly serving the Inland Empire for over 20 years. Built on honesty, integrity, quality, and old-fashioned customer service, we offer lifetime warranties for our work, and every vehicle serviced by AllStar Collision is washed, detailed, the headlights polished, fluids are checked and topped off, safety checked, and returned in showroom condition. We offer free estimates, are approved by major insurance companies, and accept all claims for all cars and trucks. We use computerized frame straightening to factory specifications, offer fiberglass body repair and paint, free local pickup and delivery, and after-hours towing. Mention this radio program at drop-off and receive $100 off or a free rental car for up to 5 days during your repair. Visit us at allstarci.com or at 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Call us at 951-279-9161. We are the kings of wreck and roll.
Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the business's advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more advertising, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs grows, and we will be on the way to win the battle to restore the Republic. To learn more, email us at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com or visit douglasvgibbs.com.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, host of The Main Event, president of Wholesale Capital, and the founder of WCC Charities. I'd like to invite you to the first WCC Charities Gala and Auction this February 25th at the beautiful Victoria Club in Riverside, where we'll be raising money for wounded veterans causes that so many of us are passionate about. It's going to be a magical night out for a great cause. This is a red tie event because red stands for Remembering Everyone Deployed. Visit the events page at wcccharities.org for more information or call my assistant Shelley at 855-640-2020 to order tickets. That's 855-640-2020. Hope to see you there.
And now, back to our program.
Constitution Radio, Douglas V. Gibbs. Welcome back, everybody. Good to have you on the air with us. If you want to listen, if you not only can you listen on the radio and on your computer, but also you can download an app for your phone. And also, if you want to call in, well, real quick, Sean, if you don't mind throwing the number out there.
That number, Doug, is 951-922-3532. That's 951-922-3532.
We were aghast when we heard that Obama spent at the last minute with this last-minute middle finger out the door, $227 million, didn't ask Congress, didn't get it appropriated, just spent it, part of a slush fund. $221 million of that went to the Palestinian Authority, which Congress had been blocking. Also, money went to climate change hysteria, the United Nations, and Kerry formally notified Congress that the State Department would release the money Friday morning, just hours before President Donald Trump took the oath of office. Now, the White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer now has said that Trump is very concerned about how taxpayer money is being spent, and that there is a hold on this. They have found a way to put a hold on it.
Wonderful. Hallelujah.
Wonderful. So that's the beginning of Trump. That's one of the things that Trump's been able to do. We also have Secretary of State Tillerson, as he's taking office, looks like he's going to be appointing a lot of the people because a whole lot of them are resigning because they don't want to serve under Trump, which is fine with me. Trump has halted refugee immigration from radical Islamic countries. So he is living up to that promise. Now I want to bring that one up for a second because this is everything Trump's been doing. It's almost like a stick in the eye of all the never-Trumpers. Have you noticed that? I mean, I've heard never-Trumpers say, "Oh, he's not going to do that with, trying to stop the refugees of Islam coming in. He's not going to do this." He has been, even to my surprise. I mean, I figured he'd do most of it or some of it, but I mean, it not only is he doing what he said he would do, he's doing it at an incredible pace. Have you noticed that, Alex?
I noticed that this guy is a dynamo. He's all energy. Before I got old, I used to be an energetic guy myself, but I never began to approximate what he's doing. He's up at 4 o'clock in the morning. He's up at 6 o'clock in the morning. He's talking to world leaders on the telephone. He's just a whirlwind. I don't think the left can begin to keep up with him. They're laid back drinking mint juleps.
I try not to pay too much attention to leftist media. I do every once in a while because I do need to know what the other side is saying. I was out of town a couple days ago. I was up in Los Angeles meeting with people, and before I went to bed in my hotel room, I was out to eat at a Mexican restaurant there in Redondo Beach. Right there, I mean, it's like a block and a half off of where Torrance at PCH meets. Really good place. And it's like the second time I've eaten there, staying out of town. And they had CNN on. So I'm watching CNN, and it's cracking me up, man. When it comes down to Trump's decision to launch an investigation into the 2016 election because there might have been fraud. Now, if there's a possibility that those fraud in election, no matter which side you're on,
why not investigate?
Why not investigate, right? Well, the left is upset about that. They're saying that his investigation is an attempt to suppress voters, voter suppression. To suppress what voters? The ones voting illegally? But isn't that the point of having a fair election? You don't want illegal voters voting illegally?
When you see the left this upset about an issue, you have to wonder why.
You know you're on the right track.
You know you're picking a very pussy scab.
Here's what cracked me up. They are criticizing him for calling for a stop of the violence in Chicago, or else he'll send federal officers in to stop the killing. How dare he? How dare he want to interfere? And then they said, well, where are all these conservatives about states' rights now?
Where are all these Black Lives Matter?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about federal government and all that. Remember the Constitution's preamble? You remember how it starts? We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice.
Ensure, go ahead.
What's that next one? Ensure what?
Ensure domestic tranquility.
Ensure domestic tranquility. It is the federal government's job to ensure domestic tranquility. All right. Now we go a little further into the Constitution. All right. Get over to Article 4. Let me flip my pages over there real quick. Well, actually, we go to Article 1, Section 8 for that matter, too. Because the Congress has the authority to call forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union. And then it goes a little further in Article 4. Let me get there real quick and so I can read it to you. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this is Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. The United States, meaning the federal government, shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence.
All enemies, foreign and domestic.
Domestic violence, to quell that, is a federal authority according to the U.S. Constitution. We've got in the city of Chicago more deaths per year than we have when it comes to our own troops in war in the last decade or so. I mean, they're killing each other off in Chicago, and they're going to criticize him for wanting to stop that. Incredible. The other thing that they got into it about was immigration and the promise to curb the Muslim refugee influx, and they alleged that he is racist because of his immigration policies. And once again, it goes back to, first of all, common sense. This country is our house. Do we want someone barging in the front door of our house without being invited, without us knowing who they are, without us making sure that we're safe in their presence, than them just taking over our refrigerator and sleeping on the bed? I mean,
an armed burglar that comes into our house is not an undocumented guest. He's a criminal.
Well, and illegal aliens have broken federal law by illegally crossing the national border. Immigration is a concurrent issue, with the states having the authority to take care of business once the illegal aliens are in their states. However, because the illegal aliens broke federal law, it remains a federal issue as well. Article 1, Section 9 allows Congress to write legislation prohibiting certain persons from migrating in the United States. I mean, during World War II, Congress limited and even prohibited, in most cases, the immigration into the United States of persons from Germany, Italy, and Japan. That's the Axis powers that we were fighting against. Congress did not establish those prohibitions because America is racist or insensitive, but because we couldn't tell the good from the bad. And that's the reason we had Ellis Island. We want to make sure we protect the receiving population from disease, from terror, from criminality, whatever. It just makes sense.
This guy I'm reviewing the book on, Frank Marshall Davis, said back in the 40s that anti-communism was racism. They had started it back then when they're dealing with mostly with Bulgarians and Romanians and East Germans. It's absolutely insane.
Real quick, did you see who Donald Trump appointed as head of the FCC?
No.
Ajit Pai. He's the member of the FCC board that have been fighting against net neutrality, super conservative, and he was been exposing what the FCC had been doing to the public and only the new media was picking up. The regular media wasn't reporting on it. Now he's head of FCC. Incredibly great choice. Okay.
Going back to the illegal immigration, my feeling is that we had a McCarran Act back in the old days where if you advocated the overthrow of the United States government, you couldn't come in. That made sense. Okay. Well, why can't we say anybody who is subject to Sharia law?
Supports it, yeah.
Who supports Sharia law?
Yeah, if you support Sharia law, you support the overthrow of the United States because you believe Sharia law is above the Constitution. Absolutely.
Exactly. There's nothing unconstitutional about that.
All right, real quick, it's going to run out of time if we don't get moving and grooving here. Snowflakes and community organizers. Have you seen the threats against Donald Trump by the Democrats? You got Madonna saying that she wants to blow up the White House.
They got a teacher on TV last night had a squirt gun. She was shooting.
Yeah, I saw that.
Of Trump and saying "die, die, die." That's a teacher.
Yeah, and then we've got this director of client relations for the Elizabeth Monarch Group out there in Kentucky, and this is what she put on her Twitter. If someone was cruel enough to assassinate MLK, maybe someone will be kind enough to assassinate Trump. Now, could you imagine? And none that I know of did this, but could you imagine if a Republican, right-winger, Tea Party, whatever, had said something similar on social media about Obama in 2008 when he was being inaugurated, or 2012? Could you imagine if at any time anybody, right or center, had said such a thing? You know how quick it would have been that the Secret Service had been at their door?
Madonna would be in jail.
Madonna would be in jail, yeah. All right. So we got the Snowflakes, community organizers. Oh, did you see? Were you watching Fox during the inauguration when that boy who had started a fire in the street, got confronted by the Fox News reporter? Did you see that?
I saw a FedEx driver rescue an American flag.
No, that's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking on the day of the inauguration. Those protests outside. And there was this 11-year-old boy had set something on fire. Fox News walks up to him and, what did you start the fire for? He was proud of it. The kid was proud of it too. Says, because I could. Besides, expletive Trump. And everybody, and my first thought was, and everybody in America's was, where's this kid's parents? And I'm thinking probably, somewhere nearby smoking pot or something. But it turned out that kid is the son of Drew Carey. Now, what's interesting about that is Drew Carey considers himself conservative and libertarian. But that was the son of Drew Carey. It shows how these children, let me back up. Children are not fully developed. Their brains, they're not even capable of making decisions, reasoning deeply enough until they're at least 25, as it is. But I mean, I thought that was ironic. I guess that's the word.
Well, the reason I brought up the FedEx guy is because the FedEx company said we're not going to take any action against him at all. So the worm has turned. 6 months ago, any big company would have fired him.
Yeah. Oh, on a lot of these protests, that a lot of those protesters are getting paid, right?
Oh, absolutely. $50,000, some of them.
All right, real quick now. We got the racist of the Democrat Party. Final topic. We only have a couple minutes. Michigan Democrat caught as alleged racist, sexist recordings are aired. Jim Fouts, mayor of Warren, Michigan, Detroit's largest suburb, is facing calls to resign after recordings of him allegedly making offensive remarks about African Americans, women, and those with disabilities made the news. Remember, only Republicans are racist, we're told, but yet it's the Democrats that keep getting caught being racist. Okay, so that's one. Here's the second one. At George Washington University, Sally Boynton, director of Idaho's Democrat Party, said that Democrats must provide training that focuses in part on teaching Americans how to be sensitive and how to shut their mouths if they are white. So, and then she goes on to say, it makes me sad that we're even having that conversation that tells me that white leaders in our party have failed. I'm a white woman. I don't get it. My job is to listen and be a voice and shut other white people down when they want to interrupt. This is life and death, she emphasized. I'm a human being trying to do good work. I need schooling so I can go school other white people. We talk about racism the other way. And then finally, President Bill Clinton, president in 1995, had his anti-immigration speech. All of that, but you know what? The Republicans are the racist ones, right? Don't forget that it was the Democrat Party that created the KKK and Jim Crow laws. And real quick, when it goes back to all this protesting, it goes back to what I said before. I haven't seen the Democrats this angry since 1865 when the Republicans freed their slaves. Plug yourself, Alex.
Go to conservativecannonade.org. You're going to find logic and artistry like you've never seen before.
My name is Douglas V. Gibbs, douglasvgibbs.com, politicalpistachio.com. You know, I'm up to over almost 5,000 hits a day now.
That's amazing.
God bless America. God bless you. United we stand. Combined we kick butt. We'll see you next week.